on this fine Thursday afternoon here in New York, or late evening over there in the UK. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Very late evening.
Yeah, the Mighty Tanaka will not be joining us today. He is out with COVID. Boo-hoo. I'm sorry, Alex.
You know who else has COVID?
Who else has COVID?
Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski.
Oh, well, he's in good company then. Everybody.
It was funny yesterday morning. We were watching Morning Joe, and Mika was trying to be on air, and she was like, "I only have half a line." I'm sitting here in a series. There's no such thing as half a line.
No, so
it was funny.
Unfortunately, Alice won't be joining us. But hey, if you don't know who we are, I'm Miranda. This is Josh, and that's CZ13, all the way in England. We are a gallery, a magazine, a festival, a award ceremony. So check us out.
You're going to say award.
Check us out online.
Clutter
Magazine and CZ13 Art. So what do we have to catch up on before we bring in today's guest? You got anything? I've got some stuff. I've got some stuff to talk about. So let's talk about it real quick. We are so excited that finally we have the rest of the 3-ounce blind boxes to fulfill on the Kickstarters. So we have the Kickstarter exclusive and the GID Mr. Kum Kum here in Clutter in Beacon, New York, and we're going to start shipping these next week. So look out for an email from us. I know everybody's eagerly been waiting, especially the Kickstarter exclusive. But check this one out because it's so awesome. It glows in the dark.
It's very cool. 2 years of toys finally starting to show up.
Yes.
It's awesome. And
in these cool little window boxes.
Yeah, the boxes look great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Are they different than the other window boxes? They are a little bit, right?
The first ones that we did?
Yeah.
Yeah, these have a cool little wraparound window.
Yeah, very nice.
The others didn't. So if you backed our Kickstarter, thank you, and you will hear from us about these soon. We also have another exclusive opportunity for you, which we'll be emailing you about. So that's exciting. Yay.
Yay.
Finally.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was 5 points. There was we were watching someone's stream the other day, and they were talking about that they didn't know everything. So I'm not saying that we should discuss it now, but it would be good if we did an episode about 5 points.
Sure.
Because I feel like people don't know the whole story of what went on
and why we move venues.
Why we move venues, like what the fuck happened with the air conditioning, like what, like our thought process, like just everything that went on. Because I think
we could do like a 2-second thing, which
right
is,
now.
Yeah.
You want to do 2 seconds right now?
2 seconds of why that happened. One is at the Brooklyn Expo Center, which was our favorite venue in the world and perfect for 5 points, closed down and became a ninja training gym. Nobody needs that, but that's what they became. And they kept us going for a long time. So we had to find a new venue, lickety split in like 2 months. And so we found an awesome venue that did not have air conditioning, but we're told that it would have air conditioning by the time we did the 5 Points Festival.
What's a 5 points?
Unfortunately.
Exactly. That's right. You're funny. You're funny.
And unfortunately, because of the pandemic and because of China and because of parts and because of a million different reasons, the air conditioning was not installed.
That's right.
And so it was just a sweatbox that we like to rename SwampCon.
SwampCon.
But
and for a little while there, I had a whole song that I would sing to people about it on the phone. But
everyone still had a good time and it was awesome. But yes, unfortunately, we will not be going back to the Brooklyn Expo Center because it doesn't exist anymore.
But the other thing that people don't know is that we lost our deposits.
We did.
We lost all our deposits.
That's
so we were starting from scratch.
This is very true.
So it was a difficult year. But no, we should do like this whole episode.
Yes, absolutely.
We should do a whole episode about this where we just discuss 5 points and
someone should come on. Danger Bot can interview us about what is the 5 points.
Yes.
I lost weight. There you go. Reggie Boom's lost weight and money and everything. So,
exactly.
It was a good time. Exactly. But yes, we will do a whole episode about what went down with 5 points. And we are planning next year's. Sorry.
I know we're being attacked by fruit flies tonight.
So
if we're like swatting at flies, we're not insane. We like just, Alex isn't here, so shit's off the rails. When we do the episode about 5 points, we should also talk about the Deisgner Toy Awards and just catch everyone up on like the logistics of that and where that's at, because that's a whole other, thing that we produce that goes on in the background that people don't get to hear a lot about.
Maybe we should do an in-between episode.
That's not about that. Really? That's not one of these?
I don't know, maybe.
Why would you do another one?
Because I like to make it more difficult for myself.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. All right.
CZ, what's up with you this week? Anything exciting happen? Same old?
Really, I'm going to like an expo at the weekend with the kids.
Oh yeah, the video game one.
Yeah, we get to play all the new video games coming out. It's like Comic-Con for video games, really. It's like the biggest one in the UK, so that's fun.
That's awesome.
So where they just had Deisgner Toy, so yeah, I know the place quite well now, so it's pretty good.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That'll be fun. That'll be all right.
We were watching Sky News the other day, and like the hack of Rockstar Games made it on the BBC.
Oh yeah.
Because I guess it's a British company.
Yeah.
I was like, why would anybody give a shit about this? And Miranda's like, oh no, they're British, so they care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it was a big deal.
I think they got the FBI involved in everything.
Yeah, I think it was a big deal hack. It wasn't just like, oh, someone hacked in.
What's the British equivalent of the FBI? Is it the Scotland Yard?
Yeah, MI5.
MI6.
MI6.
No, MI6 is the equivalent of the CIA.
MI5, MI6.
Is it MI5?
Fucking no.
Who knows? It's not real anyway, right?
It is.
It's all made up.
Same thing with Bungie. Did they get hacked? Was they hacked? That's Bungie.
So you're going to the video con. Are you going to take pictures for us? Or you're going to report live from the floor of the con?
I probably won't know.
They're too busy playing video games.
Everyone's all like sweaty gamers, you know what I mean? It's just gross. Yeah, we'll all probably get COVID, but that'll be right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've had it before. It won't be so bad.
Be all right. I'm sure I think I've had it about 10 times, but
Yeah.
I just seem to just survive it. Do you know what I mean?
I think you just got to keep getting exposed to it now, because people that are getting it for the first time right now are like really suffering. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to just have like a little tickle of COVID every 6 weeks or so.
Like these guys just tickling.
Yeah, it is. It is good.
What are you excited to go play at the video game conference?
Street Fighter 6.
What is that?
Street Fighter 6.
Street
Fighter 6.
I thought you said Street Fox.
I thought you said Street Fox 6.
Yeah, it cut out.
No, Street Fighter 6. Yeah, that's out first quarter next year, so we're all excited for that. That's a big one. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they got tournaments all weekend, so hopefully we can get into a tournament. And yeah, someone won $1,000 today, because it's from Thursday to Sunday, and this they won $1,000, so it'd be quite funny if we could go there and just like
play a tournament.
It'd be fun anyway. So, yeah.
Right on.
I want a new Haunted Mansion to play on the Switch. Can you
I think you're gonna have to wait a few years for that.
It's such a bummer. I love that game.
Well, good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Right. Should we bring on our special guest this week?
We should.
All right. This week we have an amazing illustrator, animator, toy designer, NFT producer, you name it. He
Man
does
About
it all.
Town.
Man About Town, vampire. I don't know. He does it
CZ's
all.
the vampire.
So, is he?
I don't think.
His name's not Vincent though, so it doesn't work.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I fucked that
So
up.
everybody welcome Vincent Scala. Woo! Here he is. Hello.
That was an epic intro. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. I just did that off the cuff.
You know, you forgot something before. Like, you guys are like the power couple of toys. You're like Brangelina. So
No, thanks.
We don't have a name like that.
I know, but we got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Jazz?
Jam.
Jam? Jaranda?
Oh God.
Mosh?
Mosh. There you go. I like
Mish?
that. We could be Mosh.
Or Mosh? Or Mish?
I don't know.
I like Jaranda.
Duranda. That's so stupid.
And then you could just be Duran.
So, Vincent
Shut the
Scala.
fuck up.
Stop it now. You've derailed us. Welcome to the show.
Vincent's
Thank
idea.
you for coming on and talking to us.
You're very welcome. You know, I love you guys. Love talking to you. Always fun.
Absolutely.
We have like our collection of your toys on the desk.
I know. I'm always really blown away. I love that you have the Mickey Monster there. It really.
Yes, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, no, that means a lot. You guys have that, because that show. Your first 5 points was the first time I ever like really put my art out, you know, and was like, hey, here's my stuff. Like, I think people should buy it. Like, so that means a lot to me that you
That's
guys.
an honor for us too. So let's talk about your toy story then. How did you find designer toys? What do you collect? What do you like? Where did you discover it?
So I would say that I didn't really find designer toys. I always I owned a couple like dunnies, like one or two. Never customized them, and they just literally sat on my shelf like as like blanks. And at the time, I was a designer at Fisher-Price. Actually, I was the head designer for Disney. I was doing like Mickey toys, actually specifically Mickey and the Roadster Racer toys. And at the same time, the Mickey Monster art, which is behind me, that print was selling really well in the PIQ store, as well as when I had that as a gallery show.
Is that how you pronounced it?
PIQ.
What? PIQ.
PIQ?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, do you guys say peak or
Pick.
Pick.
It was called a pick.
Hey, yeah.
I always do it separately.
Dude, drop some PIQ on us.
I like
do
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were selling that print like crazy. I was making like, I would say almost 200 a week, like, and sending it over to Sabina to sell in all the stores. And I was like, I'm like, I know how to make toys. Like, I understand how it's made. I'm sort of doing it every day at work. I was like, well, I want to make my own toy. So I kind of put my stuff together. I paid a guy $50 in India off of Fiverr to do the 3D model for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I have many regrets for many reasons. But I made a model and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna run a Kickstarter, and I ran a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter started to explode, and I actually started to I was like, all right, cool, I'm making a toy. This is awesome. And then, strangely enough, got contacted by Aaron at Martian Toys, and he sent me an email, and he's like, hey, like, I love your Kickstarter. Do you know that they're talking about you on all of these like designer toy podcasts, which I knew nothing about. Like, I knew of you guys and Clutter, and I always sort of had the magazine, but I didn't really like dive too deep into it. But I knew the artists who were in the scene. And he showed me the 3D Retro podcast, and then Gary Ham on his podcast. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. So then it just wound up being around the same time that you guys were running the 5 Points Festival. And I got an email to sign up to be a vendor. And I'm like, okay, I think my toys, they should be here by then. Like, this will be the first place that I'm going to like release them.
Well, that was the 2017 show?
Yeah.
At Basketball City? Yeah, that was a good one. So just to back up a second, how did the relationship with Pick start? Like, how did you get there?
So I used to have a table every year at New York Comic Con, and I just kind of had my art out. I didn't really sell much. Was
it in Artist Alley?
Yeah.
I don't think once I've made it to Artist Alley.
I've never been to Artist Alley.
It's always so far away.
I just have to say, what's up, Benny Klein?
Hey,
I can't disrespect.
Hey,
I gotta say what's up.
What's up, Benny?
Benny, thanks for watching.
Go on. Artist Alley is just always like, it's too far away, and it just seems like not part of what.
If you work in there, Comic Con's too hard to like get anywhere else.
That's true.
Yeah, and the big problem with being in Artist Alley was that you weren't getting like professionals like coming around looking at your artwork. It was just it wound up turning into just like, you taking pictures of people cosplaying in front of your table, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm not, I'm here to just sort of like get my stuff out, and they're
see the comments here.
Yeah.
So Kyle said that we're lazy for not making it, but thank you, Benny, because he doesn't even know where Artist Alley is either.
Yes.
If you have a booth at Comic Con, there is no way you are getting away from your booth, even if you have 20 people running it. There's no way you're going further than like 3 aisles, because somebody's going to need you for something.
Like, even the year that we brought in a refrigerator and we're making goddamn peanut butter and jelly sandwiches ourselves in our booth, we were just like stuck, like wall to wall. And then maybe on like a Sunday afternoon, you wander out and buy something for your kids.
But you don't make it.
You don't make it to Artist Alley. You make it into like just the other room.
And it was always my goal to make it to Artist Alley, but it was just like you'd get halfway there and you'd either bump into so many people that you'd be like, oh, I haven't got time, or it's just too far. Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah. Sorry, Kyle.
Uber Eats. There you go. That's the solution to Comic Con. They didn't used to have that, Benny. That's
dude. We haven't been to New York Comic Con. And someone asked me if we were going, and I'm like, dude, we're allergic to the floor at New York Comic Con. Like, I'm so sorry.
We'll probably end up going, but sorry, we're totally interrupting your story with
time. No, you're all good. You're all good. All good. No, well, there was nobody near my table whatsoever. So I was able to sneak away, and I wound up just throwing a bunch of like art and stuff to what they used to have the block. So I gave someone at Pick a bunch of my artwork, and they contacted me. They're like, hey, we'd love to have some of your stuff in our stores. So it just kind of started from there.
And was that the one in Grand Central when it was in
Grand Central? Yeah,
they had such good foot traffic there. It was like the best store.
I love that.
Yeah, and they were kicked out. Grand Central pretty much kicked them out.
Why did they kick them out?
Because they were there for 40 years apparently.
Are you kidding?
No, I swear to God. Though that store, they were actually kicked out because they just wanted like more of a corporate, person.
That's insane. That spot was the best.
It was a good spot.
Yeah, we used to go there like when we finally really started working with them and had such a good relationship, especially with Sabina and her daughter, who's named Amber.
Yeah.
We would go there and do little openings, but also just shoot promos because it was like we're in Grand Central Station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was such a good spot to just put together like a 1-minute video of what was going on.
Yeah, and there were so many people that not only picked up the art there, but even the Mickey Monster toy. Like there were so many people that were like, "Hey, I just happened to be in Grand Central Station and I saw I saw this toy in the store and I just had to have it." Like you couldn't get more eyes on a toy than right there in Grand Central.
Here he is in all of his packaging glory, because we backed the Kickstarter too because we wanted to support you. And so he sits in his box in the back room because we love to look at him.
I love it.
2017.
Let's take him
But
out.
really, that came out of New York Comic Con then, really, didn't it? That connection.
Yeah.
That was pretty. That was
yeah. It's crazy because like,
So even if you sat there all weekend, you got like you got the.
I got things out of it. Oh no, totally. I would say it also, just being there kind of helped give me the confidence to like just kind of put more of like my art out there. I think every artist has a point where they kind of feel like they like what they do, but they're sort of hesitant on showing it. Where doing Comic-Con gave me that confidence to be like, here's my art. Like I hope you like it. Like, but I also don't care if you don't like it. But here it is. Like, please enjoy what I do. And I've always sort of had positive feedback, thankfully, on the work that I do.
I think that's also a good point, CZ, about like all conventions, gallery shows, meetups, whatever they are, like they all that you can't beat that one-to-one meeting people and gaining those connections because they don't happen the same way online.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately.
Right. There's always something happens, doesn't it? There's a little adventure happens.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's nice. It's a great figure.
Do you have criticism of it?
So many years from now? I think looking back, the model. There were some issues with the modeling, like he doesn't really stand like all the time, or some of them stand, some of them don't.
Yeah. Standing.
Yeah, no, you got a good one. Some of them I have are a little funky. But
do you know what we call that around here? We call that a toy fail when someone doesn't stand.
I was actually, can I say, like when I first got into this world deeply with Miranda, I had an idea for like, hey, let's do a blog called Toy Fail. And let's talk about the toys that don't stand.
And we did. We went really far with it.
We went really far with it.
We started posting. We did a lot to it.
Yeah, I mean, like our favorite one that we were going to probably start with was the Snores.
Pete
Fowler Snores, because that one just commits suicide.
All
like
the time.
if I mean, it's been on display in the gallery here now for about 10 years upside down. And I don't think anyone who walks in here has any idea that that's not the way the toy is supposed to be.
Same with Tristan's Your Mama. Like the neck broke on every single one of those toys. Like,
and he re-engineered it at one point. Yeah. He really tried to like fix it because it's such an important toy to him. And I get why. But then we never did it because it's interesting to be able to actually say to you, what's your opinion of it now, years from it's being your first toy? Because I think it's hard for people in our world to ever really be critical publicly without getting into some crazy drama.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. Yeah. No, I'm sort of mortified. Like when I look at the Mickey Monster toy, I'm like, oh, but
it's perfect.
But at the same time, like what was really fun about it was, I made 1,000 of them and a little.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Of one color.
There were 1,000 of those, and I actually sold every single one of them in under 6 months. Like
that's amazing.
So that was a really cool, like, hey, welcome to making toys, and and I kind of like was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like people are reaching out and buying 3 to 5 at a time.
Absolutely.
So here's another honest question again. Do you think that, and you, like, we've spoken so much.
Yeah.
I feel so so happy to be on this podcast with you because we've known each other now for so long and we've spoken so much that we can really open up and get into it. But like, do you think that you sold 1,000 toys because of Mickey Mouse or because of the?
Oh no, 100% Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. And
is that part of your own like criticism of it now? Because maybe it doesn't really represent your work.
Yeah, well, no, that's definitely part of it. Also, like, you know, like I love that Mickey piece behind me. It was really important to me because I did a big gallery show.
Yeah.
And I would say that without that, I wouldn't have like the career or even personal art that I have now. Like that really like rocket launched me. So I'm really proud of it. Yeah. But it definitely represents like an older part of me, you know, like a different, you know, when I at a different time when I wasn't really creating as much and also kind of, you know, figuring out who I was. Like I think like, you know, sort of doing like parody art it's not really me. And I never really did it to begin with, but it's just crazy that the one thing I did do, it did help sort of catapult.
Yeah, and it came from that place too, which makes it, you know,
but
awesome.
To be able to say to anyone that you sold 1,000 pieces of a single colorway is like in total insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it you know, I think crazier was the you know, it was an Alibaba factory I worked with, you know, and I had to deal with like, and I'm sure you guys know this inside and out, like when it shipped to port, I had to like figure out how to use some like weird, like in between guy then to get the toys to me.
Yes.
And we actually shipped it to a warehouse that was near my house, but not me, because they couldn't imagine that they were shipping 1,000 toys to someone.
One house. Yeah.
And then instead, I had to like, I took a day off work because I figured out they shipped it wrong. And that's also after 6 months of just dripping sweat every night, thinking like, I just sent like $15,000 to wire transferred $15,000 to a factory in China, and God knows if anything's going to show up at my front door,
right?
Yeah,
you know, but
yeah,
you know, but a 24-wheel truck like pulled up on my block and dropped off 1,000 toys in 6 pallets in front of my house, and I had to like bring them all in and bring them in my basement. And
we experienced that on the regular.
We know that drill.
Yeah, when we did our first Kickstarter with Luke Chu and all the bear heads showed up.
1,000 bear heads.
Yeah, same thing.
And it's a larger figure, so it was 11 pallets.
Oh my God, it was crazy. And we didn't have a warehouse to put them in at the time.
No, and Luke was here.
Yeah.
I remember that day so clearly because we were so unprepared for what was happening to us. Luke was here, Scott Tollison was here, and Tim Clark was here. I just randomly was hanging out with us. And a giant truck pulls up, opens up the gates, and we spent the day moving them into the gallery. And then we're like, what the fuck are we going to do? Because we had a big Luke Chu show that weekend with Scott. This is 10 years ago, 9 years ago. Like so we went and rented a U-Haul truck and put them all into a U-Haul truck and just drove it away and parked it outside our house for a couple of days while we figured out what the hell to do.
So yes, that is the strangest part of it is that when they turn up and you're like, oh.
Yeah, you know, but what's crazy is you know, after doing like that your first toy, you sort of like you learn so much like so quickly. You're like, okay, I know next time like I'm not going to do this or this or I wouldn't even say I learned my lesson. Like I think you know even my second toy I did like a Lucky Cat, and that was also with like an Alibaba factory, but I thought like a better one, and you know I had the same Chinese issues I think that most people have of like sweating, and they just don't, you know, there's no QC in certain factories. They just like pop it, and shove it in the in the package.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you were still working for Disney when this came out, or
no? And no, I was, and I know for a fact that a good 3/4 of the Disney team I worked with like backed the Kickstarter. So you know, they weren't even concerned about like Disney. You know, for some reason, they didn't think Disney would give 2 shits that I made this toy.
That's crazy. I mean, that's crazy.
It does seem to be that they're not litigious.
Yeah. I think they're more looking to fight the guy who's trying to like make something that's going to be sold in like Walmart or in Target, like you know, alongside their toy and competing
Right.
space.
Or like an actual knockoff
Yeah.
of a real
Yeah.
Disney product.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to say that's why you don't work for him now.
No, to be honest,
maybe now he'll get a cease and desist and know he's made 1,000 units.
I was kind of hoping I get like a cease and desist letter because I thought that would have made it so much more valuable if you put a copy of it inside each Mickey monster of like, this is like the band toy.
Right.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
This is not legal advice anywhere that's
No,
watching.
we could do an episode on legal advice because we've been through the mill a few times
but
now.
Just because that happened to Vincent, he was lucky. He was lucky. That's crazy that you work for them and another. So then you don't work for Disney anymore.
No more Disney.
No more Disney. So what happened there? You moved on from Disney.
Yes, move on from Disney, and then I really got sort of the toy bug. I would say, also I felt like people that bought my toy were now looking at my artwork. So I'm like, oh shit, like I got to make more toys. Like people were liking the artwork, so make more toys and they'll like more artwork. So I was like frantically looking through my sketchbooks and sketches and coming up with characters and trying to figure out what to do next. And I think I did. Yeah, I did the Lucky Cat next, which actually was
I
I don't know if you guys have one.
We don't have a Lucky Cat. No, I was like, what?
Do you have any left?
I do. It's by far my worst selling toy. And here's the interesting thing: it's my second toy I made. I did get the Kickstarter to go through. It sort of like barely made it. And everyone was happy with their toy, but I then had like 500 units of a toy. And no one bought it. Like no one wanted it. Like it just kind of sat there. And I think, over the past year and a half, it's really picked up and I'm starting to actually sell them. But I'm like, well, that was 2018. It took 4 years to kind of catch on as like, hey, this is something, that I think, I should own or buy. But it was a real interesting contrast from doing the Mickey monster, which I like I said, I couldn't keep in stock. And the factory, I wanted to make 1,000 more, and they wouldn't do it. I think they lost a lot of money on pulling it because if you look at the head, the head, it's got like that interior with all the teeth, like it's a hard like vinyl pull.
This one,
because I remember.
I was just looking at the teeth and the mouth.
You know what?
Like how? What?
I mean, let's talk about production for a second on that. Yeah. Who had them sculpt it?
What
you had somebody.
Yeah, my $50 guy in India sculpted it.
Okay, because I was going to say if you had the factory sculpted, which I don't recommend, I would say that like they shouldn't be able to complain about their sculpt. But
yeah, no, totally. Yeah. It was my Fiverr sculptor who who dropped the ball.
Well, I think that's also an interesting tale to tell people is that you can have really good success, and then when that doesn't happen the second time, it doesn't mean that you should stop. It means
absolutely not. Yeah. No, and I wasn't really discouraged at all. I was like, it's cool. Like to me, like what made me happy was sitting where I am now and looking at my shelf and going, okay, I have a Mickey monster and a Lucky Cat, and that's my artwork that was just made into a toy. Like that's all that mattered. Like anything I do is usually for like selfish gain of like I want to do this project because I want it in front of me to be proud of for myself. Like I think that. And I think in the toy world as well, I see so many people, over the past like years of sort of like meeting other artists and designers. I feel like they sort of bend their art to fit trends or things that are sort of popular. And, I never really understood that because I was like, it's cool to sell. It's cool to make money on selling your art. But is it really something that you cared about? Or is the art something that you really wanted to do? Or was it just because you thought you'd sell more if you made a cute little figure?
Absolutely. I think that's a really interesting
story then. What's the story behind the Lucky Cat?
It was just another one of those, actually the true story is I know you guys know I do animation. I had a short on Nickelodeon and it featured this cat. And at the time, Nickelodeon was holding my pilot in their archives. They weren't releasing it. So I spent like 2 years working on it. They spent like $100,000 getting it made, and then it just sat in a can. And the character I thought was super cool. So me making the Lucky Cat was kind of like, it was like the fuck you Nickelodeon, because I was like, you're you're not going to get this art out there and this character, so I'm going to get it out there instead.
Yeah, you guys have a lot in common with your animation background. I know you've talked about it.
In the back room where we gave each other COVID was actually probably what we did.
the second time. Right. So you were working on toys with Disney, but you're also an animator. So when were you animating? Did you work in animation before Disney?
Yeah, I was the head designer for Dora the Explorer for about 10 years. That was my first job out of college. Actually, I was a sophomore in college, and I interned at Nick, and they were like, "Hey, our artist quit. Do you want to take this job?" And I'm like, "Sure, absolutely."
Where was the animation studio?
It was somewhere in the Philippines. We were sort of like we would decide what the story looks like. We would figure out the show and sort of art direct it, and then it would go right to the Philippines where they had.
Oh, so you weren't actually animating it?
No.
You were storyboarding and.
Story artist. Like, so you did a lot of design work. You also did a lot of like figuring out like where the camera's going, does the story work, and we would sort of like adjust the script, accordingly.
Right.
So, what did you go to school for?
Animation and illustration.
Animation and illustration.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go to school?
School of Visual Arts in New York City.
Good old SVA.
And have you always been like into art?
Was Jason Freeney your professor?
Is that where we talked at?
Yeah.
No, Jason was not there.
No, he's not. I know. It's just I love busting on Jason for being old.
No, I love that he's giving that class now. It makes me really excited.
Yeah.
They're offering that. I've wanted to be an animator since I'm like 5 years old. Like that, I literally have had like that. It's weird to say, like I had like that tunnel vision as a kid. I was like, I want to be an animator. I want to work for Disney. I want to animate for Disney. So I did anything I could to make sure that happened. I've always sort of been like into drawing and writing. I love writing. It's a big part of what I do. But yeah, going to college for it and then sort of like literally like going from like being in school to just working full time at Nickelodeon. I feel like I didn't have much experience past that. It was like I'm doing the right thing. And then when I stopped working at Nickelodeon was when I switched to toys and whatnot. But it's also opened me up to seeing like how many more things you can do with your artwork and how wide that span can really go.
Sorry, I'm a little stuck on Freeney for a second.
You're good.
But you were at Viacom.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, if you passed Freeney.
Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to give you a quick Jason Freeney story.
Do it.
Okay, good.
Who I've never met, by the way, still to this day.
Really?
We're going to go have lobsters next time we come down to Long Beach.
I've never met. I did drop toys off at his house once. Even though we've never met. But I did.
Keep saying we will, but we will.
Yeah.
I did find his artwork about 15, 16 years ago online. And I had purchased his balloon dog print that he had made of just his, the balloon dog all square. But I don't think he was making toys at the time. And I know he didn't have, the amazing stuff he does now. So I've been following his career and I love, the work he's doing. But I know he did a ton of stuff at Viacom as well. But as you know, Viacom's like 15 buildings, 400 floors of people. So it's
but Nickelodeon was a couple of floors on.
You were at MTV the same time he was.
I wouldn't, but I never worked there. Like you guys were there. Like I would just pop in for meetings.
It was a cool place. It definitely, I always feel a little like shafted from Nickelodeon because I always feel like when the show ended, we were just sort of like, all right, cool, go find a job. Like you guys are done here. Whereas they should have like taken us and put us somewhere else.
I think Bleeding Edge has summed it up that your career is based off of revenge against Disney.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be. I'm not opposed to that. Especially with making like a pilot or a short, like it's like a dream come true for someone to, especially who wants to be an animator to say, and working on a show for so long, and again to see like a Dora empire. Like I worked for someone who literally was like he could probably put his feet back in like in a vault like Uncle Scrooge from Dora the Explorer.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then to get the chance to make your own show. And what it felt like was you run a marathon and you're like making this amazing thing. And then like 2 feet before the finish line, someone just bats you in the back of the knees and and your show just sits in, in space and all you hear. Yeah, I know you know what I mean. And
it broke your heart, right? It's probably the thing that broke your heart the most.
Part of like my story of my life is when I get to that part of the story, I'm like, up to that moment, like no woman had ever broken my heart the way MTV broke my heart and literally sent me into like a depression. Like,
I know the feeling. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I definitely took some time and like didn't do a lot of artwork because I was like, what the fuck's the point? Like, like I'm working towards this goal, and if and if corporate America is just gonna not give like indie artists a chance to do something like this, then why am I wasting my time doing any of it?
So why did that begin? The journey of making your own, like, approach you?
It was probably 2014, and then it took until about 2017 to get finished.
Right. And did they approach you, or did you approach them with an idea?
It was a little bit of both. I had a friend from the Dora team who was filling in for someone in creative development who was out on maternity leave, and he was sort of like, hey, they're looking for new stuff. I think you should throw your hat in the ring. And, it wound up working out, which was kind of cool. And actually, I found out recently, so on my short, which I'll post a link somewhere for you guys to like check out, the voice of the guy who did the cat was actually on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He's like one of the drug guys in the early episodes, which I just noticed the other day, and I'm like, holy shit, that guy's my voice.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's so cool.
That's funny, when you live a few lives, you get all these interconnections.
Yeah, but but also it also kind of brings up what we were talking before. It must be that fucking Lucky Cat. But even though that show is sort of dead in Nickelodeon's eyes, like to me, I'm like, at any point it could come back. Like I still always throw it in people's faces or email it to networks or people that I think would like it and be like, hey, this is still here. Like, we can still do something with it.
You're a very angry man.
I hope it doesn't come off like that.
I just throw it in people's face. Like, have you seen this? You're gonna love it. I'm actually kind of grateful on that same like kind of wavelength. I'm kind of glad that my show didn't make it on the air because now that everything's gone woke and I'm not against woke, our show was so not politically correct. Oh my God. We were so 90s. I think we were like the peak of 90s, and then everything kind of started getting normal right after us.
Yeah.
No, because that was 9/11. Yeah. 9/11 killed my show, and then it was like the beginning of the next century.
Yeah. No, I think there was definitely a shift to like woke culture, but I think it's making like a sort of another 180. Mm-hmm. I remember actually while pitching my show, like I would reference Ren and Stimpy like nonstop. I mean, for a lot of reasons it inspired me, but also I did have the pleasure of working with like Bob Camp, who was a co-creator of Ren and Stimpy at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And he looked at some of this stuff and he was like, oh, this is cool. And I remember the network executives were like, yeah, like Ren and Stimpy, we can't go down that road anymore. Like, that's not like, we won't get away with that. But, I also sort of feel like it's making, we're going to get our comeback of we can do whatever we want.
We got Rick and Morty, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Rick and Morty is the first show that I can watch. I don't know, like that. My whole experience with animation really messed me up around animation. Like, I don't like to watch animation. Like, I'm not into it. I don't want to see it. Like, I don't care. But then Rick and Morty kind of like repaired that for me.
I'm on the same page. I don't watch anything animated. I can't.
Yeah.
It comes on. I'm like, these are the A scenes. Those are the B scenes. Yeah. This is the shit season. Like, I just get so into like the production of it. I don't want to watch it.
And I feel like I have like that Family Guy PTSD where I'm like, the guy from Family Guy has like 16 animated shows. I'm like, yo, fuck that guy. Like,
yes.
Same with Rick and Morty. Like, now Rick and Morty, which I guess it was a great show for what it was, but now like those guys are gonna have like 10 new animated shows. You're like, fuck them.
But what's the creator's name of Rick and Morty? He's also did Community. I should know his name.
I don't know his name, but
CZ, what's his name?
I can't remember. I don't know.
No, but that guy's got problems. Like, I don't think he's gonna have 20 shows. Like, if you follow
he'll burn out. Like, he does some of the dialogue like drunk and that, doesn't he? When he does rips, he gets trashed like, and you can
Community was such a fuckery for him.
Community
Dan
fell off
Harmon.
Yeah,
Dan Harmon.
Yeah.
Dan Harmon has such a crazy, experience live that he, I think, went to animation because he didn't have to interact
with
actors, actors and directors and people. It could be a little bit more laid back and a little bit more in control in, like I said, a story setting.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to now have 10 things, but.
No, we have animation PTSD.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, it's deep.
One day we should tell you a story. For real.
Someday.
Someday.
Yeah.
And show some of it too.
This is your episode, though.
No.
You're juniors. We could do this again, and you could come on and be in the little box, and I'll be in the big box. Don't tell me.
I'll come. I'll rub your back during the.
There you go. Yeah, you can cry. You can cry together.
It'll be like a support group.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Support group for killed animations. It's the
Okay.
ones that they drag you out for years. That's the problem. It's not like you create something and you pitch it. You guys are telling stories about animations that were in production and spent years
Of your life.
of your life dedicated to producing and changing and making just right, and then at the last hurdle to be like, just kidding. You thought this was going to be
I mean, it's crazy to say, but you're almost like, yo, here's my fucking golden ticket. I'm gonna start shopping for like beachfront houses, and like here's, I get to do whatever I want. Like I have like I still have a stack of like 15 fully written scripts for my show because this is what they had asked for.
Yeah.
And,
Oh my God.
like it's just crazy to to say, but and maybe it does. It makes you angry. You're like, fuck them.
Yes.
Fuck this network. I'm gonna do whatever I can to get this out there because just fuck you. There's no other way to say it.
Right.
And so much, I'm sure that you have so many thoughts from those moments that you still think are great thoughts.
Yeah.
That never got heard.
Nope.
Like I could probably sit right now and make a list of like all the jokes from the script that I worked on with the people that I worked on it with that are still like, I still think killer jokes that I'm waiting for the world to hear, but I have fucking PTSD.
Yeah. No,
so I can't forget them.
And I'll tell you what, I feel like recently, maybe it was like 2020, I took it like a step further. I was like, okay, so they don't want to make a show, but I still really want to work on this like world. I like this world that I made.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what if I flip it? What if I do a children's book? And don't get me wrong, it definitely has like my edge and feel to it. So I sent it to like 100 different like publishers and like book agents, and I do already have an actual published children's book, which was another sort of Comic-Con thing that came up, and again really proud of that as well. But I got like 100 rejection letters for the show turned book because they didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole if it was like a Nick property that they didn't want to touch,
right,
which was makes you even angrier because you're like, so you're telling me you like this, but you won't touch it because it was a show that Nickelodeon wouldn't make.
Right. Nothing to do with it. Yeah.
You're making me mad. My blood's boiling.
Yeah. But from all these experiences have come a very much DIY, amazing, like grouping of toys and concepts that is all of your own and doesn't have a master to say, no, you can't do that.
But, so you went from the Mickey monster to the Lucky Cat.
Do you have a Lucky Cat right there?
I do. Give me 10 seconds.
Let's show them. Let's show it. Come on. Dangerbot came up with the name. It's Mike Oxmold. It's not whoever you said.
Dan. No, I was talking about. No, it's Dan Harmon.
I think it's Dan Harmon. Yeah.
Here he is, Lucky Cat. Oh, it's gonna be a fight.
Oh, I'm gonna fight you, Dangerbot. I don't know if I've seen Lucky Cat.
You have. Of course you have.
I mean, I've seen Lucky Cat a million times.
It's just a cat, so you're
but Lucky Cat appears in your new drawings.
Oh, yeah. So
I
think so whatever reason I'm attracted to fucking domestic animals, cats, dogs, and mice. But I'll tell you what. So here's like the silver lining.
Yes.
Is Work Dog. Like all these like shitty fucking corporate creative experiences have all fed into Work Dog.
Yes.
So my Work Dog art and like little comics have sort of become like my like corporate therapy of getting the shit kicked out of me. I think most people who hear you have like a creative job like think that you're just sitting there and everyone's just like high eating chips and drawing fun stuff, but it really is just like any other office job. And you, as you see and hear, like we deal with just as much corporate and executive bullshit as any other position in the world. So the work dog was like me poking fun at like that world, which was also sort of my world, but in the way that I get to do it. And I've put so many personal experiences into every piece of work dog. Like there's definitely an actual work story that goes along with every piece of artwork that I've done for it.
That's what gives him so much character and makes him so awesome, though. I know the gallery show that you did here last year where we had the cells that made a story were awesome.
Yeah, I know that was awesome. I loved being able to do that with you guys because it also there was so much flat art, and I know that you guys are you specialize in toys and 3D stuff. Yeah. It was cool to see so much of it on your wall, and I feel like it got a really good reception that night.
It did. It was great, and you could just like tell the story, which was awesome.
So wait, two things. And then, first of all, hi Frank, we love you, and thank you, Kyle.
It came through.
Sorry,
Dan Harmon.
Yeah, it is Dan Harmon. Thank you.
Who's Mike Oxmold then?
I don't know who Mike Ox.
Danger Bot. Who are you talking about?
Yeah, who are you talking about?
You don't know, just say that name real fast.
Mike
Oxmold.
Oh my God! You got us. He got us.
I had a feeling it was something stupid like that.
That's good. Very good. Okay,
what's up with this toy?
I love this one. This is one of my favorites.
So here's a really good Alibaba story. Is the factory that made this little skeleton racer? They had emailed me. They said, "Hey, we're friends with the guys who made the Lucky Cat, and we really loved what you did there. We want to offer you a special promotion. So we make rubber duckies. Yeah, so we'll do like a 1-part like mold for you, and we'll sculpt it and everything.
Which ones?
And we'll do it. We'll make 500 of those for $1,000.
Wow!
Shipped like to your door.
Wow!
So it was kind of a no-brainer.
So yeah, here he is. He's one of my favorites.
Well, what's funny about this toy to me, if I could be honest?
No, go for it. Yeah.
Is when we first started doing our own vinyl production. Shut up, Danger Bot. This is the example, and again, no disrespect.
No, you're good.
Example of why they don't pull clear in China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and because I remember going to factories and being like, "Can you do clear?" And they're like, "Oh no," because this is what it looks like.
It's a little brown.
It's not just that. It's you can see the inconsistency of the roto molding process. Like you probably can't see what I'm showing, but when you do clear Safubi, because of the nature of the way their molds are shaped, they can turn them upside down and let the clear run out in this very sort of structured way.
Also very I can't think of the word.
Who are we talking about? We're talking about the Japanese, the Chinese.
The Japanese are very good
meticulous.
At getting it. Yeah, meticulous.
Well, because they generally use a higher quality vinyl in Japan in general, and then because it's a slush cast mold, they can literally turn it upside down and let the clear run out, so you can get a perfect surface on the inside. Whereas because this is rotational, you just get it's pooled in areas. So from a pure nerd production perspective, without knowing you, before I knew you, I was like, who made this? Like I was so like, what the heck is this?
So it was actually
fun, but it's like, what the heck is this?
It was supposed to be rubber ducky yellow originally, and then I was like, no, I don't remember why. There was something I was looking at that like inspired me to like, hey, can you guys make it clear? And they were like, oh yeah, no problem. They didn't even like blink at it. They go, yeah, sure, no problem. But after receiving them, I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
I still love them.
It's a great form. It's just who's
I don't know, but I want to tell you a story. Considering we're talking about like rubber duck style toys, so you're not the first person that did like a rubber duck style designer toy. So back in like 2005 when we first started the magazine. I met an artist in England called Sol Knight. So these are still in my collection, and he made
that's
awesome characters that were, in a rubber duck factory in China. So he just created this, and so he could afford to self-produce these back when nobody could really afford to self-produce toys in the early 2000s. You had to use a producer of some kind. So I was always inspired by the fact that this artist just went ahead and found a way to use the rubber ducky form to make his own characters and his own toys. And so, it reminds me of him. And actually what's really funny is that was when I was living in Toxeter in England, which is like the middle of nowhere. And he would come around my house and bring me these cool toys. And then, like, how long ago? Maybe 5 years ago?
Longer.
He was just walking down the street here and was like, Clutter, is that the same as the magazine? Like, I know those guys. So I opened the door and was like, hey, is this like the magazine? And so I hadn't seen him for like 15, 16 years. And he walked through the door here, and it was right by Thanksgiving time. And he was staying in Beacon just randomly out of nowhere. And so, he was around and he spent Thanksgiving with us, and it was really nice. So.
That's incredible. And those are really cool as well.
Yeah, they are. They're rad. They're like... Yeah. So the rubber ducks.
I like how abstract they are.
Yeah, they're awesome. So thanks for reminding me of that. Talk about it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely take pride in my disastrous toy runs.
I mean, you've been, again, like, it's a testament to you just pushing forward and continuing on and getting to the point that people are like, no, this is cool because Vincent made it.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever just called you Vincent.
Here.
And not your... Yeah.
No, Vincent Scala. I just thought this is a little skeleton guy in a car, and that's super rad. Have you ever painted any of these?
Yeah, actually at PIC, they did, we did like a full-on skeleton racer show.
We should do that again if you have more.
I have 500 of them in my basement.
Let's do another show. Let's do them. Send them. Let's get on them.
Cece's gonna rust up.
There you go. Yeah, some rusty guys.
I'll smash them out.
Yeah. There you go. Let's do it. Let's do some.
I love it when these episodes become like a working
meeting. Yeah.
Like, we should do that.
Before we carry on, I just want to go back to the cat. Yeah. Does the fucking cat stand up?
Oh, he stands. Hold on.
Oh, that's right then. I was getting worried, but yeah.
No, he stands. Yeah, no, he's got good. He's like bow-legged.
Can you hold him up? Can you hold him up again, Vincent, and just turn him around so we can look at like.
Yeah, there you go.
That decision about the tail's really funny. Like,
I love it.
But it's just such a classic good production fix.
Cool.
Like,
So I'll point out the errors that sort of bother me is the head. They just kind of put him on like a flat.
We could talk about that for days.
Wait, no, here we go.
Yeah, I have that guy too, by the way.
Same thing, because you can't ever turn his head.
No one said to us at the factory level,
you have to have a round joint.
If you don't make it a round joint, not only is it not going to function correctly, it's not going to hold tight. So my biggest, I love this. No, I love this toy. And Peter Cato, if you're out there,
I was just gonna say I haven't heard from Peter in like years. I
fucking love Peter, but I just want to say that the heads wobble, and that's just part of the design of them. Because how would this grip tightly? Like, you'd have to flange the neck way bigger.
But it's all things that you learn while you're producing and making, and we learn as artists and collectors, and
that's what we learned too, is to just not to leave any decision to the factory.
Nope, 100%. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, Peter appears at 5 points, usually like in a puff of smoke. Like, he doesn't walk through the front door. No one ever sees him enter a building. But you'll turn a corner and it'll be Peter Cato, and you'll be like, how did you get in here, number one, and where have you been?
It's
like a mythical creature.
Yeah. Call us, Peter. We love you.
We love you. So we went from Lucky Cat
to Skeleton Racer, which is a promotion.
Yeah, we're gonna do the Clutter show.
We're gonna do a Clutter show, and then the next figure was Work Dog. Is that the progression? Next figure was the classic Work Dog. This is my favorite color of him. This is from my collection, signed by you.
Yeah. No, that's my favorite colorway, the Tiffany blue.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And so it has two heads. Why does it have two heads, Vincent Scala?
Because the factory said, hey, there's a little extra room on this mold. Why don't you make an extra head?
Do you know anybody that ever changes out the heads?
Never.
Never.
Not once. I'm always curious if they do, because I don't always put the same head on when I make it. Sometimes I make it the angry one. Sometimes I use the regular face. So I'm curious to see like who sticks with what and who pulls out the hairdryer and flips that head.
So if you have a work dog and you change the heads, you need to comment.
Let me know what face you're going with.
I've never changed the head, and I don't tend to change parts out on toys.
No.
Do you seriously? Do you change parts out on toys if you have a toy that has accessories and things?
Not really, no.
No.
I think they're fun when you get them out, and then it's just like
cool.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's funny. Like thinking back, like I don't know what else I would make. Like if I didn't do the head, should I have done like a suitcase or maybe a little? I didn't have it at the time, but maybe the little computer should have been like the extra.
A suitcase would have been awesome.
Switches heads.
Oh, Lewis switches heads. They're basically bare heads, but they're magnetic. Has to be vinyl.
Yeah, this is a little more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, this requires a hair
magnetics. I understand. Like those, I'll switch those out of the Dead Big City Bears too. But because they're easy, they're magnets. So
the only person I ever met who did switch heads was someone who was working in Safubi, and he was trying to bootleg stuff. And so he would sit and like heat up stuff and try and mix things, but it was more a form of like trying to insert himself into the process of inventing new ways to make shit, but in like a bootleggy way. But I don't know any collectors who like swap shit out.
Also, Daniel U Explorers, Lewis says that he also switched out.
Should I know?
I don't think I know what a Daniel U Explorer is. Does anybody know? No, we don't know what that is, Lewis. Producer, can you look up what a Daniel U Explorer is? Oh, Explorer MVH Ollie on my shelf. Okay. All right. So you also work on animations with these guys. Can you throw one up, Harrison, so we can see one of the animations? Because we have some right there. There you go. Here he is. Work dog.
Good old rainbow vomit.
Oh no. Oh no, it's been a bad day. It's been a bad day.
That's awesome.
Oh, see, here they are together.
Yeah, and then I, combining sort of the worlds of like the work dog with like the cat, this is another actual pitch I did with MTV about sort of like my Beavis and Butthead, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Dog, which I still would love to do.
and you can totally see it too. Like you can just looking at this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, well, what does Work Dog look like when he's not working? And this was sort of what I was thinking. Or what if you took the Lucky Cat? And I don't know what it is. The household animals. I feel like everyone can connect with them. They just kind of work well.
Are they stoned in this? They're drunk. Oh, it's back at work.
Back at work.
Back at work.
He's got his game face on.
Put his suit and tie on. He's ready for work.
And then, this is actually based off my NFT collection. This one right here.
Right, which I want to get to soon, NFTs, because that kind of brings it full circle for you, I think.
I feel like, when we talk about all this, it makes me feel like a prostitute with like a pencil. Like it's just like, what happened?
But that's what Work Dog's about.
Yeah,
exactly. It kind of fits thing. And also, you were saying earlier that you see people jump from thing to thing. And actually, before we jumped on here, we were talking about you and what we were going to talk about. And one of the things that I said that was really great about your toys and your career is that you have an aesthetic and you stick to it and you keep going. And that's what's led to the length of your career in our world, because you have a style and you're not like, well, skulls are cool, I'm going to go do a skull. Like,
no, I really, and I take art breaks.
Did a skeleton racer. That's bullshit. I'm saying.
I take art breaks. I only like draw like when I want to draw or when I have an idea for something. Like I really like to just sort of be inspired by, whether it's work or life or something. And I think I go in like bursts. Like you know, I had an idea a couple weeks ago to do like a bunch of, you know, 2-inch by 3-inch oil paintings, and I haven't oil painted it in a couple months, but you know, it got me excited, and I did like 10 pages of sketches of like little drawings and making sure they're all new and cool new ideas, and I just kind of, you know, suck up all the inspiration I've taken for the past couple months and then throw it on paper. So yeah, I definitely like to get all over the place, but I think no matter what medium I use, like it always looks like I did it. Like I always sort of just do my thing and try not to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you find that you look at what other people are doing, or are you very much focused on like what you're doing?
A little bit of both. Like I'll be inspired by what someone else is doing, like material wise. Like actually for the little oil paintings, I saw a stupid TikTok video of a guy, it's not stupid, but of this painter who was painting landscapes on 2x3 panels out, and he would put it inside an Altoid tin, and he'd do a little 2-inch by 3-inch painting and then close up the tin, and that would be like what he sold. And I'm like, what a fucking cool idea. I was like, so I want to do it with work dog, do like, you know, 15 little like work dog paintings and then put them in an Altoid tin and then, you know, put it out there for sale or whatever. So I get more inspired by medium than like styles or even why am I blanking out? Things people are using
are into fashions, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I like to try new stuff. Like I like to sort of explore mediums, and you know, it's also like me pushing myself as well. Like, okay, so everything I do does sort of look the same, but what else can I do where it'll still look the same? That's still kind of extreme. And you know, oil painting, you know, is definitely one of them. Like usually oil paintings are like beautiful, super detailed things. And I think I did a couple for our Clutter show where I was able to make them look like my ink drawings, but you know, in oil.
Yeah.
And do you sculpt as well, or is everything
that I do not? I do not sculpt, and I think that's sort of here's where I'll say that bites me in the ass a little bit. Is I think that I'm always very jealous of, especially like UCZ or even all the amazing like toy customizers who are always doing shows who like sculpt all these crazy things, where I'm like, oh man, like I can't do that. Like that's where I sort of draw the line as like, I've tried this, it doesn't work, it looks like shit, and then you know, it doesn't look like I made it at all.
Right.
Yeah, got you, yeah.
But very jealous of what you guys do. And big props to the customizers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question. We talk a lot about social media and how that changes and how that has changed artists' careers. So, you know, you've lived the life of digital artists way back when and now. So do you find pressure from social media? Do you find it's a good thing, bad thing? Does it distract you?
Oh, it's a good thing. It's definitely, you know, I think if we didn't have it, I would have way less people looking at my work and picking up my toys and my artwork. But it also becomes like a full-time job in itself. Like even when I'm like, okay, for these little oil paintings, you know, I haven't started them yet. So I'm like, well, I have to set up my camera so I can shoot a video, so I can make a TikTok that I can share on Instagram and then send it to Facebook. So there's a whole process that goes along with just making your artwork now. But what's kind of cool about it is that, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason, people like to watch artists work and watch us draw and paint and ink things. And for me, like the inking or the painting, it's just what I do. Like I like doing it. I know I'm good at it. But I get a kick out of people who like watching us sort of do that, you know. So it's definitely positive, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah. I think it's a peek behind the curtain. That's why people like to watch it.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah. It's kind of like the how we made this. And I guess when you watch a video, it always sort of we make it look easy when we sort of show these videos.
Yeah, the unrealistic aspect of.
I think what I've always found hard about that is like I've got an idea in my brain and I'll go and do that idea. I've never been that organized to like, okay, now I've got to set up a camera, and then at 4:30 this afternoon I can start doing my art. I'm just like, dude, if I want to do art, I've got to go and do the fucking art. So like. I think, and it's great that, you know, if I could do that, that would be brilliant. And the TikTok things really work and the whole process things work. But like, I just can't get my head around. I'm just like, dude, I just want to do the art. Like, You know?
Yeah, no, I feel that. And there's been times where like I'll start doing a piece and then I'll, like a half hour in, I'm like, fuck, I didn't set up the camera. Like, cause you're not thinking about it right away. But I sort of set up my art desk to have like, and a big shout out to Mumbot and her husband, because he actually encouraged me to sort of do this. Was I set up like a giant camera over my art desk. So every time I sit down to paint or draw, I just click a switch and it's now recording me doing my thing.
I've done the same, but then I don't bother charging my GoPro. But anyway,
it's when you're drawing though, at least it's like your tools and everything are all in one place. I think when you're customizing stuff or process-based art becomes a little bit more difficult because it's all different things from different areas, and like sometimes it's you're not in one place doing it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more difficult. Like you said, it's a full-time job. It really is.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. And again, another shout out to customizers. Like, you guys don't even understand how many like work dogs I threw in the garbage because I was using the wrong paint or sealed it with the wrong thing after customizing it, and it would just like melt. And I was like, okay, well, that's done. No more of this. I'm like, I'm going to stick to blanks. That's it. Just blanks for everyone.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's true. It's true. So should we move on to NFTs a little bit then? And the model
before we go on, we're having a big conversation about toys.
Okay.
And we didn't address American vinyl.
This is true.
And because you really like more my Scala Dahara
got mad.
Got upset. Like, you've really gone around the bend on production. So you worked with the American vinyl producer. What was your? I wasn't sure if I should say their name. But yeah.
Why?
Well, because we're being critical.
Not really.
What was your experience with American vinyl?
I was turned on to Mile High from Jeff Bleeding Edges, who did a little toy, and I was at first I was hesitant, like even moving, because I was very happy with my work dogs, like, and I was very happy with I think the quality was really top notch, and
does Bleeding Edges work for Mile High?
What happened? No.
Okay, Bleeding Edges. Don't call it Safubi. Don't call it Safubi. I'm calling you out, Bleeding Edges. It's not Safubi.
And then I made my little COVID toy. So the little COVID guy that you guys have.
Yes.
We lost the COVID guys.
No, I didn't really lose them.
So here's sort of.
They keep coming around.
Yeah, I think that my next statement is kind of what I see as sort of the problem with working with overseas is they get greedy, and so my original deal with them with the work dogs was I only had to make like 5 or 6, toys in a run of any color to ship, and then it became 10, and then it became 15, and by the time I made the little COVID guys, they're like, well, the minimum we want you to order is 200. And I'm usually willing to sort of, okay, for that first run, no big deal. But what happens when you sort of run out or you're halfway out? I don't need 200 more. I need like 50 more. And they wouldn't budge, and they wouldn't really work with me. So to then work with Paul at Mile High, I won't say Sofubi. Actually, to be honest with you, it was a dream come true. And for a lot of reasons. Like, I think that the toy I made with Paul, the heads, the nasty noggins, there's an insane amount of detail.
They're really good.
And they came out great.
Yeah.
But
who sculpted this for you? The head.
I can't give him a shout out because he'll get in trouble. But
all right. Somebody sculpted it. Really
yeah, and he's an incredible sculptor.
Yeah.
Again, another recommendation from Bleeding Edges. And he actually did the COVID guy as well. He sculpted, and what's really cool is he nailed like my ink art like in like digital form, which I thought was really cool. It was one of the first times I was able to sort of look at a piece of my artwork and a toy next to each other and say, hey, they're exactly alike. Like that felt really good.
Yeah.
So the great thing about working with Paul, is I can text him and be like, hey, I want 5 pieces. Can you send me 5 pieces? And he'll be like, absolutely, no problem. What colors do you want? But he's also a really big fan of Japanese sofubi and the toys in general. So he'll even be like, hey, you know, I had a cool idea of mixing glitter in this or putting fluorescent in this. Like, you know, can we try it? So he's really kind of pushing the type, not only the toys that I'm doing, but the colorways, the combos, and it's easy access. Like for DCon and for Creatives Con and then Fall 5 points if that happens, which would be awesome. I have really special toys that I can give to everyone and be like, hey, these are a limited run. There's just 5 of these ever made, and really kind of specialize what I'm making. Like actually, I have some here. Like here's a great example. Like these are exclusives for DCon, glow in the dark and you know, ink marbled.
Well, those are really cool.
You know, we just did a couple.
Yeah.
And I know that the guys in China, like they would just laugh at my email if I ever asked for something like that. But also I get it in like a week. Like, you know, I'm like, hey, I need 6 toys. Okay, no problem. Here's 6 toys. Or, you know, for the rainbow show, I actually was supposed to send you guys some more. I had a whole row of them, but the arms got messed up. So I didn't ship them because Work Dog is sort of doing this like funky thing. I just customized one of them, but I'm able to kind of tailor what I get made and kind of, you know,
that's a huge positive.
Yeah. Do I think it's the same quality of vinyl that I got from my other factory? Absolutely not. I think I hold my Work Dog vinyl as like a higher quality, but I think they're also sort of 2 different animals. Like I think, you know, knowing what Paul sort of does to actually like make these in the States, like I'm okay with this because I know there's so much that comes along with getting, you know,
something,
you know, from him. And I'm also like really blown away, like watching him work and seeing how he's shown me how he pulls everything. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. It looks exactly like what I'm seeing on like YouTube videos, you know, and I know that there are differences in the plastic as well as I think it's the curing materials, Josh, if I'm right, that like that's what's like not.
I'm not actually sure.
It's hard to get the exact finals and stuff.
Yeah. You know, but you know, for all the other positives that come with it, like I'm cool with like using him to, you know, to sort of produce these things.
Absolutely. And it's better than some of the Mexican vinyl.
Oh no, I mean the ones that you were holding up look really rad. And
these are cool.
Making me jealous. So I think that's a good thing. I'm glad that I brought it up because now I'm like, fuck, maybe we should try.
No, and I think that, you know, when Paul first started, I think Jeff Bleeding Edges was one of his first customers. And, you know, I recommend him to as many people as I can. I know that he's doing a lot more now. And I think that his process as well as his quality and what he's pulling is just getting better and better.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
That's what happens.
Yeah. 100%.
That's great. That's good to hear. That's inspiring, to be honest. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, big shout out to Paul. He's done right on.
Awesome.
Right on.
So let's move on to NFTs and a little bit of that conversation because that's the next place to go.
Absolutely.
So you are an inspiration to us with the NFT space because you have built a stronger collector base using NFTs. And we're just like, oh my God, we've worked in digital for so long that it's just like, you know, when this whole NFT thing started to come up, it was just kind of like, oh my God, like, JPEGs, what? Like, so you know that it's been a thing for me to get over that personally, as somebody that's worked in digital for so long.
No, and it's a valid like. I mean, the reality is you are selling JPEGs, and like that's not a lie. Like, and don't get me wrong. Like, I literally went on my computer and said, "Okay, here's all my artwork from the past couple years in JPEG form. Let's sell them." Like, there's nothing past that. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, you know, saying that.
Right.
But getting in that space was very unexpected. I had sort of like dabbled like a year ago, and no one was really looking or buying anything, and I was just like, whatever. And then I was sort of actually here's a good example of like I saw people were making like 10,000 collections, and everything coming out NFTs was like, you know, 10,000 of this, 10,000 of that. So I was like, fuck it. Like, let's make 10,000 Work Dogs. So I did a bunch of artwork over the weekend. I downloaded a bunch of like pirated NFT programs that would sort of like put together all of these like different layers and give me 10,000. And I made 10,000 work dogs like a week later. And then it kind of hit me. Well, how the fuck do I sell 10,000 work dogs? I don't really know anything about this space. And I learned very quickly that on OpenSea, you can't upload 10,000 of anything. You have to do it one at a time. So,
Right.
you know, I was like, oh, all right, well, now I'm screwed. So now I'm going down like the rabbit hole of YouTube videos and Reddits, and people are saying, well, again, my favorite place, get someone on Fiverr who will, do some sort of like coding contract that'll upload 10,000. And I found someone, again, probably $50 that did it and got all 10,000 on there for sale. And then, Kyle has 2 of them. And then I put them out there, and a couple sold here and there, but I didn't really care about the money or selling it. It was just more of like, I'm sorry I say it this way. It was just being able to kind of throw your dick on the table and be like, here's 10,000 work dogs and have like this awesome collection. And again, just sat there. It was cool. I even made a promo video, nothing. But then I got a very lucky phone call from a good friend, Mumbat, who we all know and love. Mm-hmm. And she said, Vincent, what the hell are you doing? I didn't know you were making NFTs. Like, I'm in the NFT space and my stuff's doing well. Let me help you out. Come join my Discord server. And she literally said, hey, everyone, here's my friend Vincent Scala. And here's his artwork. I think you guys would love it. And they started going apeshit. Like they were buying it like crazy. And I'll give another shout out to Dalek. He also invited me to his community and said, hey, here's my friend Vincent Scala. I think you guys would like his work. And those 2 communities of people, not only like have they just been incredible and helped like, really grow my fan base. I mean, I went from like 30 Twitter followers to almost like 2,000 Twitter followers in just like a couple months.
That's crazy.
But it was backfeeding like my other stuff. Like people were reaching out. They were picking up work dog toys. They were picking up Lucky Cats. They were asking me to make custom prints of things on my website and T-shirts and whatever they can get their hands on that had work dog on it. They were all in for, which was just mind blowing.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And it, on top of like all of that really great stuff of selling and gaining fan bases, I met so many incredible artists that I've been like collaborating with and making NFTs. And, here's like probably the craziest collaboration I'll ever have in my life was I collabed with a good friend of mine in the NFT space who's a jewelry artist in Australia. And we made a golden work dog pendant. I don't know how to get this on camera, but it's not working.
Nice.
I literally have a 14 karat solid work dog pendant.
That's amazing.
And like these collabs and friendships just seem lifetime, and everyone is so positive and wanting to work with you and really do art with you. And there's a lot of I don't want to say I'm doing as much NFT art anymore. I'm sort of just doing a piece here and there, but I actually kind of like doing that because it's giving my work a little more of like, hey, this isn't around a lot. Like, here's a special piece. I think you guys should pick it up. Yeah. As opposed to sort of like feeding the beast that I was doing for a little while. Mm-hmm. It's making my art feel a little more special, which I'm totally cool with. And people still seem into it. And they're, even with the ups and downs of crypto and whatnot, they're still buying, they're still trading, they're still collecting, and they still seem into wanting to get more into the work dog world and, and everything that comes along with it.
That's awesome. I guess that part of it is the crypto conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think there's probably 2 conversations. It's the NFT art and it's the crypto. I don't think necessarily they should be spoken about in the same breath because I do think they're 2 kind of separate.
Yeah, they are. And I personally kind of only stick to like using like Ethereum and which is, it's sort of become very standard, almost like a Bitcoin or even like, using like US dollar. But there are a lot of other coins out there and a lot of other crypto selling NFTs with it that are very volatile and, go up and down. And mm-hmm. I sort of avoid like that, like, for a lot of reasons. But I also want to be in the space that has the most eyes. And to me, like the Ethereum world just seems to have the most eyes.
It seems like a lot of extra work. Like,
oh yeah, no, I'll tell you what, like all of this in general, like, but especially since jumping into the NFT world, I feel like I have 2 full-time jobs. Like when I'm done doing my day job, which don't get me wrong, there's points where I get to thankfully kind of step away and like do some of my own art or go do something. When I'm done, I'm usually like at my desk or at my drawing table or painting or, we're pumping out this stuff. But I don't think I'd have it any other way. Like I love being able to kind of double dip for now. And, and Josh, you and I had a really great conversation about, there's a lot of artists out there who like quit their day jobs and, and just jump into their own art. And I'm totally for it. But I feel like the pressure of having a family and a house and that not only would it would drive me crazy, it would just kill my art. Like right now it comes from a good place. Like it's relaxing, it's personal. And I don't want it to really ever be like for just making money. But if it were to naturally grow, at like I'll use him as an example because he's amazing. Like Ron English, like, he has income coming in, but he's also just doing what he loves. And it's sort of, at symbiotic, like then that would be, the dream come true. But as of now, I'm double dipping 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the issue that, concerns us on a certain level about dropping NFTs is like the level of interaction that seems required, talking kind of like we feel like we already have these touch points where we talk to our community, and adding more touch points sounds overwhelming because this is our full-time job. Yeah. And we're already we're already emailing and Instagramming.
It's another level. And I think that I think that the space itself has grown. I think when I first started in it, I was like on Discord like all day long, and Kyle would definitely
all day long.
Yeah, no, I was there with Kyle as well, like all day long, and on Twitter promoting the art and whatnot. It's definitely taken a major, like I've personally taken like a major dive off of it, and sort of like I'm not there as much anymore. But I still feel like the NFTs are still selling. Like I think I've sort of built that base up where they know where I am.
Yeah.
And they're gonna share my art, and they're gonna, and that sort of help getting it past that. But I don't have to be as intense anymore as I was. But I will say, starting off, it was, it was a lot of, kind of like how I always say I do my other thing, like throwing it in your face, kind of like, here's my art, here's my art, here's my art. And it was working, and people were buying it and then following. But keeping up with that is, again, it's another, it's the same thing with social media. It's another thing that you have to sort of like keep doing.
Absolutely. I would get burnt out, I think, if I was trying to do a Discord where I'm talking to everybody as well as like product releases and working on new stuff and like thinking about what we're going to do in 6 months and gallery shows. And like, there's so much work involved in what we do to be talking constantly or listening to people or watching people talk constantly. It's just like, it's overwhelming to the point that it burns you out where you can't.
It's too much.
Yeah, it's too much, right?
The other thing that I've seen, and again, we're making statements, we're not really asking questions, but I'll try and get to a question. There's different communities of NFT creators and NFT buyers. And so, you and the artists that you work with closely seem to be in a subculture
of artists, yeah, absolutely.
Artist-driven NFTs,
and I would give Tessa credit for that.
Absolutely,
she's like driving it, and it's all art, and it's all collectors, and it's amazing.
Shout out to Ghost Club, and
that whole environment is amazing.
And then there's another
world.
Well, there's not just one other world. There's multiple worlds, and there's multiple reasons for why people do NFTs because there's all this utility-driven aspect to it, and so it feels like when we discuss NFTs with people, we're never really even sure what's going to come back at us with the type of conversation and what the perceived value is and the point of collecting. And I was making it, we were on network before we came on here, and I was making a joke about the aftermarket. And I'm going to try and get to a question at some point in this. But when, it seems like a lot of NFT collecting is about the aftermarket, and is about the resale, and is about investing. do you feel like that feels like a ton of pressure? So here, I'll make up a question right now. When we sell toys, we're generally not thinking about an aftermarket at all. We're thinking about the fact that we love this and we're going to sell it to you because we want you to love it and we want you to own it, and let's keep making toys. Do you feel a different level of pressure with NFTs where somehow there's supposed to be this base value and aftermarket and crypto pressure?
I think you nailed it the first time. I think I'm part of more of a subculture that we're just, we're just selling art. We're just I don't think of I'm always sort of like blown away and surprised when someone buys one of my toys. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like, you bought one of my toys. I get the same sort of feeling with the NFTs. Like, it doesn't feel any different. But Mumbot and Ghost Club have really tailored a community of artists who don't care. I don't want to say don't care. NFTs can live or die, and we're going to still do our thing. We're just happy to have this extra thing that we can do that helps bring more eyes on our other stuff.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm changing. We're changing as the market changes. So there was a point when Ethereum was super high and it crashed down to nothing, and we were still selling NFTs, but we sort of looked at it a little differently. And we're like, okay, well, if you buy my NFT of this, I'll send you my original ink drawing, or the Rainbow Vomit animated thing.
Right.
Was paired along with a customized work dog toy. And what's crazy is that NFT plus toy sold at close to $1,000.
Yeah.
My work dog toy is like $50. Like, you know what I mean? Or $100 customized. But that combo, for whatever reason, because that person owns the rights to that animated GIF, made the value go through the roof for them. So
what does that mean? Owns the right to that animated GIF?
So
let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
No, it's a great question. I think it's just that they own the one-of-one print of that animation. What
does that mean? Let's go. Let's do this. What does that mean?
I don't know.
You just heard it from the horse's mouth. You don't know.
It's not the file. It's not the original file, because you have the original file when you press save.
Yeah, no, they own
a node.
They own the resale value on it, kind of what you were talking about before. So they can then sell it for more than they paid, because it says that that's a one-of-one thing. I guess here's where it becomes, like you said, here's where it becomes shitty, is I hold artist integrity where I'm not going to sell that video to anyone else.
Right.
But we all know how this world works. There's a lot of other people that would gladly sell that at $1,000 to 100 more people and just be like, fuck it, you guys already gave me your money. But that's sort of that becomes my utility.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Go on.
Okay. And I'm happy to be completely laid bare here in front of the world when I say this. Not talking about this makes me feel so much better than when we're talking about this. Like as an artist, I love sculpting, I love making stuff. As soon as we start having this conversation, I don't know if it's my PTSD coming up or what is this coming up, but when we don't have to have this conversation, I feel so liberated. But as soon as we start having this conversation, because I want to grill you, but honestly, not talking about this makes me feel relaxed and happy.
No,
because I don't believe that you know what it's worth. I don't believe that it's worth anything. And I like the idea, CZ and I, one day we fucking orgasmed together. We're like, oh, we're going to make all this cool shit. Me and CZ had this whole creative conversation. We can make all this stuff. And then it was like, oh my God, it'd be so much work to make all that stuff. And what are we making?
No, it's a good question. I don't know. I think it's very much a space in its infancy. I don't know if it's going to last. I don't know what the time span is, but I really felt that I would regret not have tried it. I think there's a lot. I think, Josh, you have valid points, and you see people on Facebook that give a lot of hate, towards the space as well. And, I take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't offend me. And I'm actually always curious, like, how they feel. But I just want to take it as, even if it's like, I don't want to say it's a cash grab, but even if it's a fan base grab, I'll fucking take it. Like, I'll take the 2,000 people for a year and a half that I've, given into this imaginary world that no one really knows anything about. I'll take the 2,000 followers I now have now, and it dies. Like, it doesn't matter. But at least I could say I gained it from it.
Right. And like you said, you're part of a community that is very art driven, and also like there's usually something else that goes with it. It's not just you buying this JPEG of which you don't really own the original.
When you first sort of get in this space, and if you join like a community of people who are just about buying and selling, it's like being on like a stock market, like Reddit or something. Like, these guys are like, floors at 0.05, like everyone sell now or everyone buy now, and it's very much like just flipping and selling to gain money, whereas Ghost Club is it's just about the art, and,
right? Which is amazing.
And I don't think anyone in the space like has any foreseeable idea of what the future of it will be. We just know it's working now, so we're just going to keep rolling with it. But I don't know like the logistics, like kind of like the questions you're asking. I'm like, I have no fucking clue. I'm like, in my eyes, I'm just making and selling JPEGs, like that.
You were part of that. What do we call it again when we all get this panel? Sorry, I was having COVID. We had this panel at 5 Points where we sat and discussed this.
Yeah,
and it came down to like, but they own the node.
Yeah,
I'm like, what are we talking about?
Here's a story.
So let's see this up.
Right, what if okay, so the guys bought your GIF of the work dog, right? So here's a little future. What if that guy has got an in with an animation company? Now he owns the rights to that animation, goes and makes an animation using that and sees your dream through, and you're sat there going, what the fuck?
It's a good question. I think that that's actually kind of legal, because I think that
because he owns the rights to that.
Yeah, no, I think didn't Seth Green make like a Bored Ape show because he bought an ape?
Yeah, but aren't they CC0 or whatever?
That is the intention of Bored Ape, which is an interesting play for an artist to say, hey, I'm going to make something completely free and give it away and become massive, and maybe the person behind it then starts selling their own Bored Ape paintings for millions of dollars, like in a Banksy play, where it's like, no one could have foreseen that. And I get that as a concept.
Is that just ego, though?
I don't think it's ego. I just think, again, it's like it's lightning in a bottle, and it's just not what it's about for me. And I'm speaking, like, we're being
here's a good like bring it full circle.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation you've had with me. Like, so if they did that and they made billions of dollars off it, they would still sort of wind up finding me in my artwork, because that's where it came from. So it's almost like China ripping off like a toy and making millions of them and selling them everywhere, of like the CanBot. They're still coming back to you because you made the CanBot, even though they're selling all these ripoffs. Right. You still sort of get the credit for it. At the end of the day.
Right. And everybody wants to be bootlegged.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. It would be the same thing with this. Like, yes, let's say they made a Rainbow Vomit animated show, which, by the way, I would kick myself because of the PTSD. No, I totally get it. But at the end of the day, they would still wind up finding me in my artwork. And I think those millions of people that are watching that would help just bring up what I have.
Oh, yeah.
Quite possibly. It's a big unknown, isn't it? I guess it's interesting.
I think that it's like, it's valid if it fits into your day.
Yeah.
And you're saying that you found a place where you could fit it into your day and fit into your life. Like, you went through the addiction phase where you're on Discord all day, and you've kind of dialed it back to where you can put it out and you feel good about it.
I mean, Kyle's making a good point there. He's saying exposure don't pay the bills.
No, but like, Banksy is an interesting thing where it's like, if we knew who he was, nobody would necessarily give a shit about his artwork. Like he'd be rowing the same boat as every other artist in the world.
Yeah.
And he went with this, or he whoever it is, went with this anonymous play, and that really worked because that lights up your imagination. It could be anyone. And so, however this fits, for Bored Ape, it's working. Who knows how much money they're making? I think there's just like this sense of obligation to an NFT that gives me stress. That selling someone a toy makes me feel very proud. Like when I sell someone something, I'm like, enjoy it, take it home. And I like the mysteriousness of just being like, cool, you own that.
Well, I think also,
and we don't have to ever talk again.
So
but with an NFT, it feels like you have to have this.
There's people that are digital artists and they only make digital art, and so for them, the end is the digital asset, right? And so that makes complete sense to me.
Absolutely.
Right, that they now have a market to sell a digital asset. People that don't do that and the JPEG is part of the process feels like you're selling something before it's completed, because the end thing is the painting, is the animation, is the whatever it is. So I think that's part of it too, is that like it's like you make a gazillion of these things as part of the process, and now you're selling the process. I guess
selling part of the process is great. I think that Vincent's too level-headed for this conversation. To be honest, we want someone on here.
We'll get this conversation with Mumba, who will have like
and she'll have like so
she'll have way, but yeah, she'll
such a better vocabulary in this than me. Like
right.
But
I don't know if she wants to have this argument, and I respect her for that, because I think her perspective is actually very similar to yours.
Yeah, and
it's like
and she also said like in Thailand, when she was in Thailand, like people don't have a lot of space for toys. So for them to have like all these collectibles on their phone or on their computer, it meant a lot to them. It was just like owning toys, but for them, they were able to kind of keep it in this like little, in their little box.
Yeah. And Kyle's saying that it was, what did he say? That it comes down to, for some of the artists doing it, the rest of it were other people, but some creators just had fun. It was fun for creators, absolutely.
Yeah. I got a ton of work out of it. Like, I mean, I literally... I've never done so much artwork in my life in a year since joining the NFT space. And then, like I said before, the collaborations, the hanging out with Dalek, doing the gold, like it all came from NFTs. So it's almost like NFTs is like this. It's like a crazy Comic-Con. I'm just hoping to kind of that is sort of
right. And there's an excellent validity to that. Like that's amazing. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't want you stressed, Joss. We
don't be stressed. No,
it's PTS, man.
It's PTSD. It's total PTSD. That's what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
But then it is. But the thing that my real takeaway from this, and the more that I thought about the conversation that we had with you and with Mumbot, and I apologize that I don't remember everyone else's names who were on that panel. I remember the word panel. What I took away from it was what Kyle is saying and what you're saying, and I'm aware of that. And so I'm not here to sharpen my knife on the conversation. I just think that it's a conversation that has to be had. The part where I feel like it's still unclear to me is when you get to that next level of like you're investing in a piece of art. And you're spending $20,000 on an NFT.
Crypto versus NFT.
And it's like, well, I bought this piece of art for $20,000, and is it going to go up in value, or is it going to go down in value? And there's 1,000 of them, and is there really going to be another generation? And I have the same concern about toys. Is there going to be another generation that wants to buy these toys that we sold in 2022? Or the generation that's going to come after us just going to want to buy the toys that are coming out in 2035? Will this stuff continue to go up in value? I think that's a real interesting...
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
Really good question. And is there going to be... Is a kid going to wake up in 2040 and be like, that... I won't name a name, NFT that was put out in 2020 that someone paid $20,000 for, they're gonna be like, fuck, if I don't get that goddamn JPEG for $50,000, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Who knows?
You don't know. That's the art game, isn't it? It's about value, and physical art's got the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
And I think CZ, like, we're the only ones that can really make that happen. Like, us doing our artwork and getting it out there and continuing and nonstop doing it. We're the ones that are going to make that JPEG and that toy worth something in 20 years because we're still throwing it,
Pick me one more time.
Josh.
Okay, so the comic book. There's so many fucking fruit flies flying around us right now.
It's not beer.
So the reason that my, Amazing Spider-Man 300 is only worth $1,000 and not worth $500,000 is because all the 14-year-old Joshes in 1992 bought 5 of them, put them in Mylar sleeves, and kept them. And my
Star Wars figures to
right, and my buddy who worked at an art handling company got paid. So collectors who have art collections in storage will call up their art storage company and pay art handlers to destroy artwork to make their other artwork more valuable. So here's a real story. Here's a first-hand story. A friend of mine was working at an art storage company. Won't say who they are, won't say who he is, but I'll say what it was. It was the collector owned 3 identical Warhol prints, called up and had them destroy 2 of those prints.
And they filmed it. They
videotaped him cutting it up and burning them, and sent the video of them being destroyed on a CD to the collector. And each of those prints was worth $100,000 at the time. And then once those 2 were gone, that one was worth $750,000 because it was the only one left, right?
So if every also drove a forklift through a Monet,
right? But but back to what we're talking about is, so if every node exists forever, why would they ever go up in value? And I'll just shut the fuck up now. We can talk about something else if you want. I'm done.
I was going to say, you guys got
bullet in my head. Let me go.
You guys should start burning some of my artwork.
I'm going to burn this work, dog. One
thing that I think is strange about NFTs, it's nothing to do with the artists and their art. It's the collectors that buy it and now it's their art, and they think that now it's like their creation somehow. And Kyle's right, we have to have a collector on here to talk about the collector side of it, because we are not.
Yeah, I think that's a whole different. Yeah, because I don't have that mindset. Like,
right.
Like I said, I get the same kind of like, why are you buying this with my toy as to do with the NFT? Because it's,
right.
But
and I understand collecting to own it. I understand that. Like, come on, I understand that. But I don't like. I'm like, no, that's like toys.
Oh, okay.
No. But I don't understand. Like, I bought this, but I don't own this. I can't create other work with it. I can't put this on a t-shirt and sell this because this is my creation. I just own this piece of Vincent Scala art and I love it. Like, that's a different mindset to like, well, I bought this and now I'm going to create my own universe from it.
Yeah.
Which is strange.
Yeah. And like when you hire someone, this was an argument that I had at 5 points with someone, or after 5 points. When you hire someone to create your logo for your company, and it's your logo. So I'm Joe Schmo, living wherever, and I get somebody to make I'm a plumber logo, whatever it is. That's my logo, but I'm not the person who made that art. That's just my logo.
Right.
I didn't create that logo. It's just my logo. And so we had this argument with someone who was like, this piece of NFT art that they bought, they were saying, well, this is my art now because I bought it. And we're like, no, but you didn't make that art. You just own that art. It was very like, we wanted to slit our throats in this conversation.
No, you know what? I'll tell you what, like, you're having a conversation that I actually never even thought about until just now. Like, because
Jesus Christ, man, you should have called us.
no, because I'll tell you why. It's because I'm in like a very secluded bubble of artists,
creating
art with other artists, like, and the collectors in these communities are also just art collectors. They're not looking to sort of,
take advantage.
Yeah, like make a show out of an NFT they purchased of mine. So yeah, I know it's definitely an interesting conversation. You brought up a good point. Like I said, I've never thought of that before. Like,
part of what we went through in bringing NFTs into 5 points was having a lot of these other conversations kind of come into our bubble, and oh my God.
We're just like, we just want artists to make money, man.
Metaphysical anxiety, man.
Yeah, totally.
Where it's like, wow. Wow.
It's a really interesting conversation, and it gives us anxiety, but that doesn't mean that it's not an interesting conversation.
It's good. Yeah, no, I like that you guys have hard questions for it, because they're legitimate questions. Like, but like I said, for me, it was more of like, how many more eyes can I get on my artwork? That's all I'm at.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, like, and here's like an awesome positive spin is like, I did so well in NFTs. Like, I finished my basement in my house, like on NFTs. Like,
amazing.
Amazing.
I
respect that so much, and I respect you so much. And
I know that, and I love you guys too.
Yeah. And everybody should make as much money in art as they can, and that's amazing that artists now have that ability to just like straight to market and do that, and that's like incredible.
Yeah.
So,
and
I'm sat here thinking about the future, right? Because Josh, you just said, well, there's like 1,000 of these, and how will they go up in value? I'm sat here thinking of the Mad Max universe, like, and it'll be the devices that are valuable, and it'll be like, fucking hell, there's only like 5 fucking iPhones left in the world, and I've got an NFT on it. And then they'll be valuable.
Yeah.
Well, in the 20 Blade Runner 2049
there's no
universe, where like it's like, well, in the universe where like half of the servers get destroyed, then all of a sudden maybe there's some value to the nodes that remain.
Yeah. Imagine that.
You know what's going to be valuable? The artists. They can still draw on the wall when the world's flooded and too hot.
So we should start buying and selling artists. That's very empire of you, Miranda. That's so British. Let's just buy and sell artists, shall we?
That's not what I was saying. That's not what I was saying.
Fucking Brit over here trying to buy and sell the world.
The talent is the talent, right? That's it.
No. I was going to say, this sort of conversation could lead to a conversation just about Collective Commons and copyright and all that, because that's really where we think about a lot.
And I don't think the law is not caught up with any of this NFT stuff. Somebody brought it up in the chat. They said that NFT IP will stand up in court. Won't stand up in court, which is probably true. And right now it's like super grey, and the legal system, the legal system isn't even caught up to common use and like fair use, and so it's all dependent on what a judge thinks and the interpretation of the law. So it's going to get really muddy and really grey for the next few years, I think.
No, thank you for saying that, Be Mighty, because I thought when I found out that Ron was doing that, I thought that was genius, because it was like, burn it, I'll send it to you, get it out of there, and flip it back into the URL. And I was like, that's a fantastic way to handle it, where you're destroying the node and you're getting the collector, because everything you're talking about I agree with, from like the hype and the making friends and the collaboration and the getting out there and doing all that. It's just the rarity and the uniqueness of the object means so much to me as an artist and as a collector, that some part of me does have this like metaphysical stress about saying that this node somehow has value, because I think I do put so much into the physical object.
Yeah, because you can't value one JPEG over another JPEG, right? That's what, and you can download it on the computer and be like, well, I have this JPEG, so where's the value in this one? Just because it's on the blockchain.
Back in the 90s, I started making, and none of it exists as far as I can tell. I probably have a folder of it somewhere, but I figured out that like if I copied my files incorrectly, sort of like I would get distress, like digital distress in my JPEGs, and I would print those images that were like randomly fucked up, and I was really into that in like 99 or something, and like no one cared. I was like out of my mind, freaking out, printing this stuff.
You were making burnable NFTs. You said,
kind of like I've had these thoughts in the past and doing stuff, because I like when digital becomes unique. But for me it was about like, something happened on the computer. It was the accident of transferring a file and it getting destroyed in the transfer, and then printing that into a physical object. And it was just so many steps removed in 1999. No one knew what I was talking about.
I definitely have like that that attachment to physical. And I think, all of my artwork starts with an ink drawing, even the digital NFTs. Like I have a piece that coordinates with an NFT, like physical, like to every one of them, which makes me feel better. But I think, I think Miranda said it too. Like there are artists who just, all they do are digital. Like those guys, this is their world.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And for the record, I just want to say, like, I respect what you're doing, and I respect NFT artists. And asking these hard questions isn't meant to denigrate it.
No, not at all.
It's just to sort of discuss the metaphysical anxiety of it.
No, totally cool. And I think it's a cool conversation to sort of have, because there's a lot of like important stuff that I feel like we can talk about a lot of things like careers and toys and this or that, but that only scratches the surface. There's so much more that's there about like being an artist and being an artist, that's making money for themselves as well. That goes along with it. That it's a really important conversation.
Absolutely true. So
that's crazy.
Dangerboy says that Nike is suing a company that was making NFT versions of sneakers and selling them. So that may pull it up into the court system, and we'll see what happens, because that will probably end up in the Supreme Courts.
Here, but also to bring this conversation full circle, because I was, who owns what and how we use it is interesting, because where's like,
brings it back
like,
all the way around.
I think that Mickey Mouse should be in the public domain, and everyone should be able to make their own version of Mickey Mouse, because that's cultural sharing. That's how our culture grows. I was listening to some rap with my daughter the other day, and we were listening to the first Beastie Boys, License to Ill, and there's like all this Zeppelin on it.
Yeah,
and they could do that because the law wasn't clear. So I think that's a much, I don't know about 7 years, Kyle, but I think Kyle
the lifetime of an artist would be better.
Well, the problem is when corporations own things. Yeah. But I think the part of the conversation that's interesting is like at a certain point, copyright should enter. Things should leave copyright and become part of a public domain
conversation.
Yeah. And and someone can make their career copying things. I think is great and valid. There's just something about the node aspect of it that freaks me out. Yeah. There you go.
It does come full circle with this guy,
yes,
though.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
If only I had an NFT of them. No, I think I did actually.
Did you make it?
You should.
Because you heard that Disney's suing everyone that made NFTs of Mickey Mouse. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, though.
Well,
it'd be interesting to see what happens with this Nike one. I guess that'll change things.
I don't know. We'll have to reconvene after the lawsuit.
We will. It's such an interesting conversation. The whole, like, everything's interesting about it. It's just interesting. Maybe because I'm not a collector, it's more interesting to me.
Of NFTs?
Yeah.
You own NFTs.
No, okay. The collective we own NFTs.
Couple,
I don't own any NFTs.
Yeah. Okay. So, was that it?
Is that
where do we go from here?
I don't know. Where do we go from here? What have you got coming up, Vincent Scala? What's
I took most of the summer off. I didn't do any artwork really. I took a break. I definitely had Discord burnout and Twitter burnout and art burnout.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing.
I've done the same, man. Honestly.
Yeah, no, I was like, you know what? I want to take the summer, kind of like jot down ideas here and there, but like, just kind of go out and do shit, have fun with the kids, and and
live your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is true. Like, you gotta have a life to like imitate it. Like, you gotta do stuff. You can't just always be like cranking out artwork. But I'm excited for like October, because that's when I always do like. Well, I did it last year. I do like my Worktober, where I do like a work dog piece of art every day for all of October. And like last year, I did not only did I do Worktober, I did like Workvember, so I did 2 full months of like work dog stuff.
Wow.
But, and it was all sort of like work related and whatnot. But I decided to go a little funkier this year, and I included some like Halloween prompts and some like creepy shit. So I'm excited to kind of take a deep dive into doing work dog, but in some like crazier situations and including some wackier things. I think it'll be fun.
It must also be fun to see what other people come up with when you do those things.
Yeah. I love sort of searching for the prompt and seeing, what everyone does. And I think that, doing all the work ones last year, they were super boring, which totally makes sense for, what I was doing. I mean, and to me, it was sort of fun to get to do all these, fun work dog things. But I think this year's should be a lot of fun. And like I said before, I'm excited to do these like little paintings. I think they'll be, just something new that I haven't done before.
Do you have new toys in the works?
No new toys. Just some new colorways of of like the noggins, and I have some glow in the dark like work dogs and some fluorescent ones and all sorts of
awesome,
really, really cool colors that I haven't done before. No, we gotta talk about a new toy.
Yes.
There was a mini prototype made. I think.
There is. It's sitting on the back.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great, and stripper dog too.
Yeah,
the stripper dog.
Stripper dog for breast.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like because of you guys and like it's something we always talk about. Like I wound up incorporating her so much more into like the work dog world.
Best.
And so expect to see like way more of her, and I will drop a hint that she may even be one of my cards for the creative set. So.
Oh my goodness,
that's awesome!
Whoa, you heard it here first, folks.
That's exciting. That's
I kind of took a step back from making a new toy this year just because I want something else going. Yeah, I think I have enough for now, at least.
Yeah.
And I want to keep going down this work dog route. I feel like it's really not only has it spoken to a lot of people, but it feels very much like me, and it's helping me say the messages I want to say. So I want to just keep digging.
Yeah, I think everyone can relate to work dog. That's what it is. There's always something in his story that somebody can be like, oh God, that's me. Or I've been in that situation, or I know that person. Like,
yeah. No, he feels relatable, and I think that no matter what walk of life you're in, like it just sort of works for it. So that feels good, being able to really relate to people who are looking at your artwork, as opposed to a lot of my other stuff, which was usually just like dripping heads and and whatnot. But I'm still bringing them in there, so it's okay.
Absolutely. And today we don't have a toy tank, but I did put out a newsletter to invite people to come and apply to be on Toy Tank, because Alex is out this week. We've just been doing like way more things than normal, so we didn't have time to organize a toy tank. But that being said, what advice would you give to a new designer, an up-and-coming designer, somebody that wants to make a toy, and how to get started and like what to do?
Yeah, I would definitely say like, I get a lot of like Instagram messages about this, and from people who are like, oh, I always wanted to make a toy. Here's a piece of artwork, and you always, you're sort of like, oh well, sure. Right. But I would say, make sure it's something that you want to make for yourself, not to sell, not to care if it sells or anything. Do it just for you, and make sure you work with a reputable place that will make the toy like for you. Otherwise, you're left with toys that don't stand, which would be a toy fail.
That's great advice. I think that's great advice. I think that doing something because you love it is the key to everything.
Yeah, no, I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed, and also because I've had the pleasure of like, having you guys as friends and seeing, my career sort of go up year by year. Like it means a lot because of supportive people who are here and like, hey, we like your work. Please do more. Like all artists need to hear that. It's that one compliment that makes me do something the next day.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, we love working with you. I'm excited that we thought of a show
while we're on here. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we should do another work dog series
anytime.
Take over as well.
Yeah.
That'd be rad.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it, man. It's always great when I come over and we can have a little chat,
Yeah, definitely. See, I love you.
Yeah, I love you.
I didn't get to see you as much at what'd you call it? SwampCon?
SwampCon. Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, I was just getting out the back. It was just too hot. I was like,
I will let you know that I had the best time. 5 points was incredible.
Oh, good.
But I did walk to my car, take off my clothes, and drive home in my underwear with the air conditioning. in the middle of the street. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm taking off my shirt and my shorts, and I'm just driving home.
That's amazing.
Oh my
that
God.
could be the best story I've heard so far.
That's fucking legit.
Yeah, we're probably going to use the same venue again next year, but only if it's got air conditioning. Like that's the stipulation. We started.
I have seen the air conditioning unit. It was delivered. So it was sitting in boxes on the floor last time I was there. So
yeah, we're so sad that the Brooklyn Expo Center closed down. I loved that venue, and there really isn't another one like it.
No,
that is a work dog picture. Work dog in his underwear driving the car.
There you go, home from SwapCon.
Dude, there you go.
Yeah. There just isn't another one. So
Sweat Dog is what
Sweat Dog.
It's been SwapCon.
Yeah,
we'll rename it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us. This was awesome. We'll have you back anytime.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. We love you. We love your work. It's great.
No, I love the hard questions. Like, please, like the only conversations we should have are just the real ones with the real questions that we want to ask.
Right on.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Absolutely.
This was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm inspired. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching and chatting and commenting and asking questions. We appreciate it. Thank you if you're watching this, a replay crew. Thank you. Drop questions in. We'll get them to Vincent. You can ask questions for next week too. We'll be back.
We definitely have to have Vincent on so he can critique someone's work. I'm missing that. That's not happening right now, but
I know. We'll bring you back on just to be a panelist on Toy Tank. If you want to take part in Toy Tank, the link is in our bio on YouTube and on Instagram. You can fill in the form and you can come on and show us your new toys, and whoever's on the show will help critique it and give you advice. You can ask questions. It's fun. It's a fun little segment. So take part. Thank you, Cece. I know it's late in the UK. We appreciate you staying up every time to be with us.
Feel better, Mighty Tanaka.
Yeah, he'll be back next week.
Better.
Poor COVID.
He just got fucking worked over.
Slammed down.
He texted us while we were live that he took a walk.
Oh, well, that's good.
That's COVID, isn't it?
Yeah, he has got first time COVID.
Yeah.
Rough.
The worst time COVID.
Real rough this time. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for watching. Join the conversation. Keep collecting toys. If you're an artist, you're doing awesome. Keep going. Show us your work.
Yes. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys. See you soon.